Hi, my name is Marie Spalding. I am a career advisor in the AU Career Center, and I work with students in the College of Arts and Sciences and the School of Education. I work with students in a variety of ways, but what I want to do today is talk to you about how to prepare for the in-person job and internship fair, which is on March 30th. We also will have a virtual fair on April 6th. Both dates are listed on the top of this slide, along with lots of other information. I will be talking obviously about how to prepare. That's the first one listed, and then it keeps going. So I'm going to jump in, and then if you have questions, I'm going to ask you to put the questions in the Q&A, and I will answer questions at the end of the webinar. Okay, so let's dive in. Okay, so, well, as I already said, this is the how to prepare for the in-person job fair. And to be honest, we haven't had an in-person job fair in 2 years. So this is kind of a new experience for all of us. And why should you go to the fair? Well, you want to network with employers. It's never too early to start talking with employers. You can apply for positions. You can learn about organizations from people who work there. So before the fair, here are some things you need to be doing. This is a link that takes you to a listing and handshake of all of the events that we are doing between now and both the in-person job fair on March 30th and the virtual job fair on the 6th of April. We will be sending this PowerPoint slide, no, not the PowerPoint slide, the entire webinar to everyone who has registered. So you don't have to take notes on all of this, but it's good information for you to have in front of you. Now, the resume. So why bother to have a resume? Well, the purpose of a resume is to get an interview. And you want to demonstrate on this piece of paper that you're going to bring to hand to employers. You want to demonstrate your education, your experience, and the skills that you have learned. Describe in detail what you've done, and then, as I say, bring multiple copies. This is a different animal than virtual job fairs. So the in-person, you do need to have actual hard copy resumes. Now, this is just to reiterate when the resume stations will be. And as you can see, a week from today, on the 28th of March, we have a virtual resume critiquing from 3 to 5. On Tuesday, the 29th of March, we have in-person in the Career Center in Butler Pavilion, 5th floor. And on the 4th of April, we have virtual resume critiques from 11 to 2. Now, this is one of the most important slides because in order to access the list of employers and to use the filters to refine your search, you've got to download this app, Career Fair Plus. I have it on my phone, and I've used it, tried it out and used it a whole lot of different ways. You can start out with viewing all employers, and I think at this point we actually have 42 employers coming in person on the 30th of March. And then you can use filters, things like are the employers looking to hire undergraduate or graduates? Are they looking for particular majors? And most students are checking off all majors, most employers are. If you are an international student, it will tell you if that employer is willing to work with a student who has curricular practical training or optional practical training, and there's lots more. So my point is, this app is essential for you to have on your phone. Now, the game plan, this is important. You want to download the app and do the research, and you want to come up with a list of your must-see employers. You know, who are the top picks? And you start with them, of course. But the other thing is, when you are doing research on the employers, that will help you to develop 2 good questions to ask each employer. It is a way, when you approach the employer, that you can indicate to them that you have done research. Make sure you practice your introduction of yourself so that when you walk up to the employer, you know how to begin. Prepare your elevator pitch. We call it an elevator pitch. And frankly, I don't know that anyone pitches people in elevators anymore. But the point is, and there is a workshop on how to craft your elevator pitch, you want to think in advance what you want that employer to know about you. So obviously your name, but you know, are you an undergrad, a grad student? What's your major? And then the skills and relevant interests, depending on what that employer has indicated that they are seeking. And then you can share more information and ask questions. Professional dress. I am not going to go through every aspect of this except to say that business attire is strongly recommended for students who come to our job fairs. And it clearly states what that means. So I'm going to let you look at that. And again, we will send you a copy of this webinar, so you don't have to memorize all of it. I think most of it, from my point of view, is fairly self-explanatory. However, it's worth stating again. During the fair, you want to review the layout of the job fair. And last time I checked on the app, there is not a floor map yet. Now, maybe that's changed. But this is a job fair that has, at this point, 42 employers coming, which means that the setup will be a little more condensed than it was 2 years ago. And I don't know how many of you even went to a job fair in person before this time. But my point is, you want to understand the layout of the fair, where the employers, identify the ones you're really interested in, familiarize yourself, walk around the floor, and practice your pitch and a sample question with an employer. Now, approaching employers is a lot more complicated these days because of the virus. You want to be mindful of respecting the space and wishes of others. So it might be a very good idea to ask if, may I shake your hand? Personally, I'm not shaking anyone's hand. So if you feel that way too, you could let them know, I am not shaking hands right now. You can, if you would like to shake hands, great. You can do an elbow bump, a friendly wave, hello, how are you? Those are all acceptable. So don't feel that you have to shake hands, but if you want to, make sure you ask the employer how they feel about that. Talking to employers. You want to use your pitch, know how you're going to introduce yourself. You want to have at least 2 questions to ask each of the employers you approach. You want to make sure to have copies of your resume, and I leave it up to you. I think the number of copies you want to bring will probably depend on how many employers are on your list that you would like to approach. And then make sure to ask for a business card. And I will tell you why on one of the next slides. Okay, after the fair, this is why you want that business card. You want to send a thank you email to each employer with whom you interacted. I would also add that you might in that email attach another copy of your resume, so that if the employer doesn't necessarily remember you, if you attach another copy of the resume, they've got it in front of them. Connect with the employer on LinkedIn, apply for positions, and maintain your network. And what that means is do not disappear. You will have talked to these employers on the 30th of March, but you don't want to make that the only time you're in touch. You want to continue to send emails, or, depending on what you find in terms of jobs and you apply for things, you want to let the recruiter know that you just applied, that kind of thing. You do not want to disappear off their radar. Now, I'm perfectly happy to try to answer questions. In terms of visiting the Career Center, we are on the 5th floor of Butler Pavilion. We are three levels above the bridge, and we have in-person and virtual appointments, and you've got both ways to contact us. Let me just think. Well, I'm going to let you ask any questions that you might have, because I fail to imagine that I've covered everything that you might be wondering about.
Hi, Marie, it's Nathan. Just letting you know we haven't received any questions through the feature yet.
Am I still being recorded?
Yes.
Okay. There's one. There's a Q&A. What's this one?
The first question, should we come prepared with different formats of resume, such as a normal resume, a federal resume, etc.?
That's a very good question. Depends, I think, on what employers you're going to talk to. If you're talking to a federal government agency, then it could be useful to have a federal resume. However, doing a federal resume is something that's not an easy task. So I think you could probably bring your non-federal resume, and you can ask the employer, would you prefer to have me email you a federal resume? And I'm trying to think, what was the other, there was another part to that question.
It was, should we come prepared with different formats, resume, such as normal resume or a federal resume? So I think
I think I've covered that. Let me, if I may, make a point of mentioning, if you go to the Career Center website, which is right in front of you on this last slide, you will see that there are icons at the top of the website. One of them says resumes. What I would suggest to you is that you take a look at those resume templates. And if you are a first or second year student, I'd look at the underclassmen template. If you are a junior or a senior, I would look at the upperclassmen template. Okay, now let me think. Was there any other part to that?
I think you were also saying that it's okay to come with a normal resume, and if you speak to a federal employer, in the moment, you can give them your normal resume and ask if they would like you to follow up by emailing a federal resume.
That's exactly right. Now, can everyone hear you, Nathan?
Yes.
Okay, that's great. What other, I think there's some other questions.
Yes, so we will get to all these questions coming in. The next question is just, do you have some examples of questions that students can ask employers?
Okay. Well, one of the things I would urge you to make sure to do is make some mention of the fact, when I looked at your website, I noticed that your company focuses on X, Y, and Z. I am particularly interested in X. In other words, you want to make sure the employer knows you did some research. That's really what I'm getting at, because employers will know very quickly if you have not prepared, if you have not done research, and you don't want them to walk away with that impression. You could also ask how long they've worked at that particular company. What did they enjoy most about working there? You can do some of that too, but I think I would put more emphasis on the research that you've done on their website and what you learned by doing that research.
Marie, if I could chime in, somebody that we work with, I think, once described it as not asking them questions where the information can be found on the website. Right?
Yes, you're absolutely right. No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, that if you ask a question that could be found on their website, that's a way of letting the employer know you have not done research. You have not dived into the website to find out more about that employer.
And if I could add, Marie, if somebody has done research, but they have deeper questions on the hiring process or the recruitment process for the internship program at that organization, it's great to ask those deeper probing questions, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And I believe there was a question about tech resumes. Am I correct?
Yes, there's a question
Yeah.
here. Do you have someone in the Career Center who can help with a tech resume?
Well, I will be quite candid with you. I have worked with students who are studying fields that involve a lot of technology. And I tend to use the same resume templates when I'm meeting with those students. But I think it's up to you what skills you want to particularly emphasize. So I would think, depending on what kind of tech skills you want to make sure they know about, you may want to have your technical skills as a category higher in the resume, so that you might start out with your name and contact information. And then I think education is totally appropriate. And then have a section that says technical skills or analytical skills.
And Marie, can I add to when I work with students with tech resumes that I always also encourage them to let a faculty member look it over as well, especially if the faculty are very familiar with the tech skills and they understand how those apply to the workplace better than I do. That it's not that that's not my area of expertise. It's not, but it's that my area of expertise is the resume format and how you word things, but that we work jointly with the faculty and leverage their knowledge about, you know, the industry skills more specifically. So it's collecting information from multiple places.
That's excellent. Thank you, Nathan. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right, our next question is it advised to bring a cover letter for specific employers if you're seeking them?
No, because cover letters need to be targeted to specific jobs with specific employers. You will be at the in-person job fair in the flesh. You will be there, so you will let them know what skills you particularly are looking forward to applying and why you would like to work with that employer. So no cover letters necessary. That's a huge advantage of an in-person job fair. And frankly, even the virtual job fair, you don't need a cover letter because you don't know exactly what position you may want to go after.
And in most cases, if you're officially having to apply for the position anyway, it's the online system that requires the cover letter, correct, Marie?
Usually, yes. And there are employers who do not ask for a cover letter. Now, no one enjoys writing cover letters. I know that. But I will tell you, even if an employer does not ask for a cover letter, I would urge you to write one. And the reason I say that is the cover letter is your opportunity to market your specific skills that apply to what that employer needs. If you don't include the cover letter, all they've got is a resume, which tells us the history of what you've been doing, but it doesn't indicate the employer why you are applying for that position.
And then just to be clear, there at the tail end, you were talking about using the cover letter when you were applying to the position. And to clarify, earlier the question was, do you need it for the fair? And you said you don't need it live for the fair.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
because you're there in person. So you will talk to them more specifically about the skills that you would like to use and how those skills might match up with that employer.
Okay. The next question, do you have advice for accessing affordable formal wear or advice/tips if our business attire no longer fits properly?
Whoa, that's a very good question. And I don't know how much advice I can give you. Well,
Can I chime in, Marie?
yes, please, please.
We have found that just by checking out consignment shops and thrift stores that we ourselves as professionals are able to find professional wardrobes that are much more reasonably cost than having to go out and buy yourself a brand new suit, so to speak, or yeah. So I think as long as your clothes are well fitted, it doesn't matter what your body type is. It doesn't matter what you wear, if they're pants or a skirt or whatever. But it's not, you don't have holes in your garments. As long as you found something that fits your body type well and it is nicely presentable, you can find something like that at a consignment store. And there are a few consignment stores within campus, within reach of campus.
Yeah, that's a great tip. The other thing I remember when I was in college, sometimes I borrowed clothes from my classmates, and I don't know if that would work for you. But yeah, you don't want to have to go out and spend gobs of money that I'm sure you really don't have. I think what Nathan just suggested is a very, very good way to go.
And I would just also say, if you have any follow-up questions on that, if we didn't get exactly at what you were asking, please go ahead and add more in the chat, in the question feature here. In the meantime, the next question is it advised to connect or network with as many agencies as job fairs, or to try to focus your attention on agencies that best suit you? Quantity over quality.
Oh, well, I'm always a believer in quality. And I can't tell you how you're going to match up with employers, nor can I tell you how much time you're going to have to spend at the job fair. It's 3 hours. I believe it's 2 to 5. And I will tell you, quite frankly, if you come at 2 o'clock, not everybody may be set up. If you come at 5 o'clock, there will be employers who may have left. So the prime time, I think, is from 3 to 4. And, if you have a class, you may have to ask your professor to give you some time, either at the beginning of a class or at the end of a class, so that you can be gone and come to the job fair. But again, I would go with quality. I would not try to rush from employer to employer to employer simply to hand out resumes to more recruiters. I would really focus on your top employers.
All right. And then the next question that has come in, do you need to wear a suit jacket, or will a shirt and tie suffice?
Oh, I'm going to turn that over to Nathan.
That is a great question. And I think we see, in terms of what we see in the business place today, it is a variety. We'll see people with a shirt and a jacket with no tie. We'll see people with a shirt and tie and no jacket, and we'll see all of the above. If you have all of the above, I think it never hurts to be somebody who is potentially overdressed. I would rather be overdressed than underdressed. But if you don't have all of them, wear what you do have, and you will fit in.
Yeah, and also make sure that whatever you're wearing is ironed. Yeah, you don't want to walk in with a wrinkled shirt. And I do mean that, because we have seen some winners.
All right, so that's all the questions that have come in for the moment. We'll give it another second here to see if any more come in. Marie, as you are answering these, any other thoughts come to mind for you, keeping in mind that for at least half of our undergraduate population, they would not have had an opportunity to attend an in-person job and internship fair yet.
I don't know what else I would add really, except that it's going to be worthwhile. You can never talk to employers, too many employers. And let me just say we have right now, I believe 42 employers signed up for the in-person job fair on the 30th of March. And there are 51 employers signed up for the virtual job fair a week later on the 6th of April. That means that you have the potential to talk to 93 employers. And I've got to tell you, I am sure that every one of you is either looking for an internship or another way to gain experience and or a job because you're graduating in May. So I can't think of any more reason than the reasons I've just listed that you want to come, especially if it's in person, but also if it's virtual. You know, either one can help you to interact with employers and find out more about the potential jobs they may have.
Marie, on that point, maybe at this point, since I'm not reading questions, I'll go ahead and turn my camera on too and join you.
Yes.
Well, it's not coming on. I will say that for the students who have attended a virtual fair, attending a virtual fair and an in-person fair, there are many similarities, but they are very different experiences. And for those who are interested in also attending what we call kind of part 2 of our job fair on April 6th, which will be virtual, that will be in Handshake with the video features that you will either be able to connect with an employer during a group session, a group presentation, or during a one-on-one session. So it will be very similar in a virtual format for how you could engage with them in person. But there are differences and the platforms that we use are different. Marie highlighted the app that we are using to help you find your way through the fair, Career Fair Plus, for the in-person event. With the virtual event, everything is in Handshake. Handshake is where the event is and where you'll find all the information about the employers attending that event.
I was just going to add to that with a virtual job fair, there are 2 options. Nathan just covered them, but what I'm going to suggest is if you're one of the first people who has accessed the information on Handshake, you have a better chance to sign up for a one-on-one with a recruiter. And those are generally 10-minute chats. If you are later and the one-on-one opportunities are not there, then you want to sign up for a group chat. And those could be groups of 20 to 30 students, as I understand it. If you go to a group chat, it is in your very best interest to ask a question, because that is the only way that the recruiter is going to pick you out of the crowd. And again, if you can, in the virtual fair, I always encourage students to ask if the recruiter would be willing to share an email address so that you individually can be in touch with that person after the virtual fair.
And Marie, I have just one other question here. And you talked about specifically students who are looking for internships or jobs. Can we talk about what are some of the advantages for students, first and second year students who may not quite be ready to actually look for an internship yet? What would be an advantage for them to coming to the fair at this point in time?
The advantage to that student is that he or she would, or they would have an opportunity to find out even more about that employer. Presumably you will have done research, so you have some sense, but I think it could be a very good time to ask, if they have internships and what have students done in the past? What kinds of work have the students done when they have interned? Because you would want to know that if you apply to be an intern, you will have substantive work. If you have any hope of doing an internship for academic credit, the internship has to be substantive. And that means you have to be doing something in addition to answering the phone, giving tours, that kind of thing. You need to do hopefully some kind of meaningful research, interviewing people, writing for them, writing for a website or a newsletter, so that you will be honing skills that'll help you when you apply for jobs in the future.
And one other point I like to make when working with first and second year students is that this is the safest time for you to attend a job fair if you're not actually applying for something in the moment. This is where you can go and get the lay of the land. You can see how these events work, both in person and virtually. You can practice talking to an employer without having the pressure on you about whether or not this will convert to an internship offer or an interview or something else. It's a great way to go and get practice so that down the road, when you are ready to search, it's not going to be a brand new experience for you.
Absolutely true. Yeah, for sure. And I think for some students, I mean, there have been times at in-person job fairs where students have approached me and said, well, I'm kind of nervous, and how do I jump in? Well, I mean, my advice is you just got to do it. It's kind of like jumping into the deep end of a swimming pool. That may not be a good analogy because some of you may not like to swim, but the point of it is you want to get this practice. You've got to get this practice, because whether you're having interviews in the future virtually or in person, you will be talking to employers. So the more you can listen to yourself, pay close attention to whatever they're sharing with you, the better off you're going to be.
All right. Well, we don't have any more questions coming through the chat. So one last call out to see if anything shows up. All right, nothing else there.
Well, we certainly appreciate the fact that you are here. And if you do have further questions, feel free to reach out. My personal email is mspauld@american.edu. And you can also write to the Career Center. And if you would like to schedule an appointment, we have 30-minute. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Nathan just put that in my email address. We have, when you go into Handshake, if you do want to make an appointment, you would look carefully at the advisors and who works with what populations, and you can make a 30-minute appointment or a 60-minute appointment.
And I will just add on that last point you were making about just getting in there and trying it out. We will be available. Career advisors will be available during the in-person job fair as well as during the virtual job fair for consultations. So we will have spaces carved out where you can come ask us questions if you have questions or concerns. And we're not just turning you loose, we're there with you to support you. And I'll just pull up this slide one more time to highlight our all of the prep for the fair events that we are hosting in addition to this session today. Crafting your elevator pitch is tomorrow. Resumes 101 is on Wednesday. And then following the in-person fair on March 30th, we will host a session for how to prepare for the virtual job and internship fair on March 31st, because that event will be on April 6th. And then just as you prepare for all of these fairs, we have 3 resume stations available. 2 of them are virtual and 1 of them is in person. And we hope you will join us.
Absolutely. Well, don't be a stranger. Come and talk to us in the Career Center. Talk to us at the job fair, and best of luck to you. Take care. Bye-bye.